Watching the panic in her face, realizing that Trump is now president.
The reason that the idea to put a ban on stock trading for members of Congress is even a thing is because of Nancy Pelosi.
They're talking about literally going after her for insider trading.
She is rightfully criticized because she makes, I think, $174,000 a year, yet she has a net worth of approximately $413 million.
The undeniable evidence.
Nancy Pelosi has stayed safe in politics for many years by avoiding trouble like a bullfighter avoids angry bulls. But Joe Rogan wasn't going to be gentle. He came at her with facts, jokes, and the kind of honest talk that made her carefully built image shake like a hanging light during an earthquake. What happened wasn't just making fun of her. It was a complete takedown that removed all the fancy political stuff and showed the raw, uncomfortable truth for everyone to see.
Every time people call to ban it, they were like, Nancy Pelosi's like, what? No, yeah. We're not going to do that. How would we do that? Yeah. The lady's worth $200 million. She makes $200 grand a year. She's better at stock trading than Warren Buffett and George Soros. Yeah. Why wouldn't she? I mean, she know where everything is going to hit. It's you know what's going to hit, when it's going to hit, and how much it's going to hit for.
Joe Rogan quickly turned Nancy Pelosi into a political joke that makes itself. This wasn't a nice, gentle tease. It was a mean breakdown of everything the former House leader has done. From her over-practiced talking points to her amazing ability to hold onto power like a sea creature stuck on a sinking boat. He went straight for the weak parts of her political career. The fake behavior, the double talk, and the fact that she's been in politics so long she probably has a retirement plan older than some people in Congress.
Nancy Pelosi, this giant lady who wants all the money.
Private beach in Italy, and we're going to go out tonight by singeing your retinas with a photograph of that event.
Who's been in politics for 150 years. Just pictures of her with Kennedy.
I didn't realize Nancy Pelosi was well endowed.
Oh boy.
Really?
Yeah.
You've done the research.
Well, there's all these photos where people are calling her, what's a gilf?
If you like this video, please make sure to follow the channel and hit the bell button. He made fun of the way Pelosi acts like she helps regular people while living in a huge house that could easily hold a meeting of world leaders. Rogan showed the big difference between her image as a public helper and her history of political moves that always somehow helped her personal friends. He laughed at the way she talks about poor people's problems while drinking fancy wine that probably costs more than a month's rent for the very people she says she helps.
Yeah.
This is third in line for the presidency on a private beach in Italy. Soak it in, ladies and gentlemen. Close your eyes as you go to sleep tonight and try to get that image out of your head, if you can.
You never seen her?
No, I've never seen Nancy Pelosi.
No disrespect, Mrs. Pelosi. I admire her for her stock choices.
What, you get every person in the country to turn off their television? You throw that up on the screen?
And look at the size of those sweater hammers.
That is incredible. That has made me a lot more in favor of Congress.
So was yeah.
Then came the part that had everyone either laughing or feeling awkward in their seats. Rogan's opinion on Pelosi's famous stock trading problems. He didn't just mention it, he cut it up with perfect accuracy, painting the picture of a politician who has managed to turn her government job into a money-making trick that would make Wall Street traders jealous. He described the way her trades just happened to match perfectly with upcoming laws, making it sound less like luck and more like inside information wrapped in a fancy scarf.
You never saw that?
No.
It's wild. They confronted her about being able to insider trade.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information received from you?
No, absolutely not.
Do you see the Nancy Pelosi thing? Oh, this is ridiculous. Nothing with insider. Let's watch this because it's so funny.
And Nancy Pelosi became very...
Why do you have to read that? What word it talks about?
Wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support to stop the trading of members of Congress. I'm not...
He also attacked her habit of not answering questions directly, comparing her press meetings to an Olympic sport of word tricks. Watching Pelosi avoid a question, Rogan said, is like watching a magic trick, except you can see the strings, the hidden doors, and the card up her sleeve from far away. Her ability to sound like she's talking about an issue while actually saying nothing important became one of his biggest funny weapons.
You would need people to enter into politics at the highest level. Didn't need the money, and really were good people that really wanted to just change the tone of how everything is governed. And that's going to be so hard to do because the money is so nuts.
And that's, I think...
Do you see the Nancy Pelosi thing? The new one?
she was being interviewed and then was like, I didn't want to talk about that.
Anderson Cooper. Put that on. Anderson Cooper, he sneaks it in. She's like, I came here to talk about the anniversary of Medicaid. Like, she cares about Medicaid. She's worth an estimated $400.
But Rogan didn't just stop at the political attacks. He went after the polished public image, the carefully planned photo opportunities, and the constant attempts to make every failure look like a win. He made fun of her famous clapping at the State of the Union as the political version of a mean online review, smiling but somehow making it hurt. He even attacked her long-running fights with political enemies, pointing out how she seems to love conflict as if it's her political air to breathe. From there, Rogan moved to the bigger picture, the way Pelosi represents an entire group of career politicians who talk about progress but rarely give anything that really changes the game for ordinary people. He made fun of the media's tendency to praise her cleverness, calling it less political genius and more in weird talent for surviving scandal after scandal without ever truly being punished.
Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio, this was a fascinating statistic to me, grew 70%.
They have had better results on the stock market than literally anyone ever.
And her portfolio outperformed every single large hedge fund in that same year and even more than doubled the returns of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway.
And they have access to information about laws that are going to be passed.
The president stands with the American people on this. He doesn't want to see people like Nancy Pelosi enriching themselves off of public service and ripping off their constituents in the process.
That's not insider trading.
What he described her ability to stay at the top of the game for decades as a mix of mean determination and a political world that rewards staying around over getting results. And he didn't avoid the awkward truth that for all her talk about protecting democracy, Pelosi has never hesitated to play the same political games she criticizes in others. By the time Rogan was done, Pelosi's image as the unbreakable, respected political leader had been replaced with something far less flattering. A veteran player of the system who knows how to keep her power safe, while the rest of the country keeps asking why nothing really changes. Under Joe Rogan's mean spotlight, Nancy Pelosi's political career looked less like a decades-long legacy and more like a never-ending improv show where the performer keeps forgetting her lines but refuses to leave the stage.
She's worth an estimated $400 million. And because the guy was so polarizing, and because he was such an easy guy to turn into a Nazi, it's a threat to democracy, we can do anything we can to stop him. So what do? They stop all the primaries. They don't have real primaries anymore. They rig it with Bernie Sanders. They rig it with RFK Jr. They're just the whole business.
Rogan destroyed her long list of political mistakes like a UFC fighter working a punching bag, pointing out that for someone who has had so much time in power, her accomplishments seem strangely more fake than real. And when he talked about her speeches, it was less about the policies and more about how they often felt like watching someone try to read karaoke words from a screen they can't quite see. Her time in politics, according to Rogan's attack, had the weird quality of someone holding the steering wheel but not actually driving the car. Years in leadership positions hadn't led to amazing reforms, but rather a tangled mess of half-finished attempts, endless talks. Then came the money jokes. Rogan didn't avoid that famous stock market whisper around Pelosi's name, pointing out that her weird talent for lucky investments had become the political version of spotting Bigfoot. Rare, suspicious, and just believable enough for conspiracy theorists to have a party. He turned it into a running joke, imagining her investment account glowing like a video game treasure chest every time laws helpful to certain businesses were passed. The image of her giving a speech while also mentally checking stock prices was too sharp to ignore.
See that Trump was saying nice things about Pelosi.
Trolling
She's
the fuck
a
out of her.
smart woman. She does a great job. I think she really loves our country.
No, did you see what
I like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she's tough and she's smart, but she deserves to be Speaker. I would help Nancy Pelosi if she needs some votes. She may need some votes. I will perform a wonderful service for her.
Her ability to avoid tough questions was another target for Rogan. He described it like watching someone expertly dodge punches in a fight, but never throwing one back. Pelosi, in his telling, had mastered the art of political dodging, giving long, wandering answers that sounded important, but could be played backward or forward without changing the meaning. It wasn't just about avoiding traps. It was about creating so much word fog that no one could even remember what the original question was. But the roast didn't stop at her word tricks. Rogan drilled into her decades of political positioning, where being a smart leader often meant waiting for the public mood to change before acting. He made fun of the way she could ride a wave of anger when it was convenient, then quietly paddled back to shore when it became politically dangerous. It was theater without a script, designed for headlines and social media shares rather than lasting impact. He compared it to throwing confetti at a burning building. It gets attention, but it doesn't solve the problem.
You look at the numbers, who's making money on the stock market, it is not all Nancy Pelosi.
Investigators might finally get a peek inside Nancy and Paulie P's earnings sheets.
Nancy Pelosi should be investigated. She has the highest return of anybody in the history of Wall Street.
It is red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. It's pretty much down the middle.
He wants to see a ban on stock trading by people.
Rogan also leaned into the age gap in Pelosi's politics. For all her years in the game, she seemed oddly disconnected from the energy and urgency of younger politicians and voters. It wasn't about her age, he clarified, but about her operating system. Like trying to run the newest apps on a device that hasn't been updated since 2009. Her political playbook felt stuck in a time where deals with both parties and polished soundbites could cover up deep system problems. Now, in a time of intense political fighting and instant online watching, those tactics looked like old things from a more innocent political age. Then came the roast of her public image management. Rogan pointed out how carefully planned her appearances had become down to the lighting and camera angles, as if every moment was a campaign ad. It was less about raw realness and more about keeping the myth of being in control. But in a world where voters are increasingly doubtful of polished politicians, that control started to feel more like a wall than a strength. The image of her as a giant of the house might have worked for political insiders, but for many ordinary people, it symbolized the frustrating reality of a political class that never seems to leave. Her decades in power had created a strange kind of permanence in politics where leaders become institutions unto themselves. And institutions, Rogan reminded his audience, rarely change without a push.
Nancy Pelosi, I think, is way up there in the multiple million.
Well, she's psychic.
Who in your book is a greater threat to American democracy, Elon Musk or Donald Trump?
Donald Trump without any question. I mean, Elon Musk, strange. Donald Trump, very, very, very dangerous.
I don't know if you know this. She's really good at the stock market. She should teach that, huh?
Ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow managed to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position. You know, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing. It seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why.
The problem is the ones that aren't honest, and there's a ton of them, and they don't get rooted out.
And Rogan wasn't finished twisting the knife. He leaned into the idea that Pelosi's greatest skill might be political survival itself. Not the passing of landmark laws, not bold reform, but simply lasting long enough for the story to shift in her favor. He painted her as the ultimate escape artist of Capitol Hill, capable of slipping through scandals, criticism, and calls for change with the ease of someone who's been practicing the act for decades. Every mistake was spun into a misunderstood gesture. Every criticism reframed as partisan noise. It was, in Rogan's telling, less about leading the charge and more about staying just ahead of the angry crowd with a smile that said, "I'll still be here when you've all moved on." A strategist who could outmaneuver opponents, but not the system's stagnation. A figurehead of progress who, in Rogan's telling, often seemed more committed to keeping things the same than challenging them. It was a performance art critique of a political career wrapped in the kind of biting humor that left his audience laughing, wincing, and questioning just how much of it was a joke and how much was simply the truth.